From Clayton to Columbia to Clay County, you're watching This Week in Missouri Politics. Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. A lot going on this week. So we have the full panel, starting with David Sweeney, lobbyist. When I think St. Louis City Hall. Good to have you back, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Scott.
Jane Duger, super lawyer, KMOX, the most interesting person on Twitter. Miss anything?
No, not at all.
Relentless Bark. David Barklage, Dean of the Missouri Republican Party. Ken Waller, the county executive in the swing county of Missouri, Jefferson County. My goodness, the county swung with the state. If you wanted to know where Missouri was going this election cycle, just look at Jeff County, right?
Some people won by over 20,000 votes, Scott, in some of those elections. It was really a crazy night in Jefferson County.
So there were a couple places that I thought you could hear Donald Trump winning early. One was West Butler County. Another one was Jefferson County. Come in big. Trump brought a lot of Republicans with him. What have you thought about the first few weeks? And tell me what you think about Carrier.
Well, I'll tell you, the first few weeks has been crazy. You know, we've got, almost all the positions down there now, from the judge positions all the way through the state rep, state senator, and a lot of the office holders. So, the Trump train really just came through Jefferson County along with the whole state and carried so many people. But like I said, there was people that won elections by 20 and 15,000 votes. We have the first new elected sheriff, and Dave Marshak, in 86 years. And we have 9 out of the 12 judges, which was unheard of, from Kathy Sinkel to Wes Yates and Vic Mellenbrink, some of the new people on board. So we're excited. And then watch the Carrier thing. Is that what you just said, Scott? Yeah. That was exciting. I mean, Trump and Pence, they were doing what they do best. And I think that's just tip of the iceberg of what we're going to see for the next 4 years.
David Barklage, I was watching how Donald Trump saved all those jobs. And I was just thinking, gosh, Nordyne made air conditioners for RVs in Poplar Bluff. I was thinking, man, instead of a president like Barack Obama that sends them moving boxes, what if Donald Trump would have been president? Maybe those jobs are saved.
Well, I mean, look, I think that we've already seen from the early formation of his team, him making calls to CEOs and sort of giving them helpful reminders he's going to be president, not to move jobs, that's one thing a president can do. I mean, they can make a suggestion, and when a president calls a CEO, they listen. So, I think he's real in that regard, and I think that, again, when people get through the fact that he is a carnival-like showman in terms of his attitude that he learned really in the streets of New York, but his substance, I think, is found in his family and his success in his business, that we're going to see a president that may be stronger than anybody in the past, not because of a mandate or lack of a mandate, but because the press made him in the primary, they made him in the general, and now they're trying to make him probably the strongest president. I mean, they are
hating him every step of the way.
And so no one's going to listen. And so a president that does not have to deal with popular opinion, nor really cares about Congress, is indeed a very powerful man.
David Sweeney, I have to admit, the German in me has some schadenfreude. I like to sit at home and watch. I see Donald Trump save 1,000 people's jobs. And I watch CNN, and they're like, you can't do that. You don't understand. That's not the way you do it. Is it, are Democrats running the risk of, and by Democrats I mean CNN, running the risk of being too far over the top and actually helping him?
No, I mean, we're also forgetting that 1,000+ jobs left also. So we're forgetting half of that. But he did save some jobs, and he is a showman, and as you said earlier, it's what he does best when he and Pence go do a rally. I mean, that's what he wants to do. He wants to go on this tour, and that's his thing. I think when we dig into the weeds and when we have real issues with other countries throughout the world, that's when we're going to run into trouble.
Well, buying Christmas presents for your kids seems like a real issue to those 1,000 people in Indiana.
It's a real issue to a lot of people throughout the country, not just in Indiana. And saving those jobs, there's no shame in that, and that's great. However, we've got to do more than just do 1,000 jobs here and there, and we've got to look a little bigger.
Jane Duger, I mean, the person that I remember being on KMOX with you, you were so thrilled that Donald Trump be the nominee. I was like, I think you ought to be careful.
I was.
Now
I
he's
got
not
it.
only the nominee, he's the president-elect of the United States, and he's saving jobs that Barack Obama. I read a report where the Mexican president was fuming. Do you think the Mexican president ever fumed about Barack Obama? No. Thousands of American workers fumed at Barack Obama.
Well, and I will say it was smart for Trump to lead off on jobs and trade. That is his strong suit, and that's something that he should have always focused on because that is his strong suit. I mean, the jobs report came out, and this economy created 178,000 new jobs this month. So I mean, let's keep everything in perspective. But what I do like about this, about what he did, because yeah, it was only 1,000 jobs, but what he did was he picked up the phone and said, hey, Mr. CEO, you have federal contracts, and that makes up 10% of your revenue. And if you think that you are going to leave this country and get federal tax dollars through contracts, you have another thing coming. So I think he was very smart in picking Carrier out, because I think he knew exactly what was going on. And I like the idea of our government saying, you don't get to take the benefits of being an American and taking tax credits and taking contracts and taking whatever, and then walk out the door. And that, I think people did want to see that, and I think that was a definite positive.
There's one thing I want to say is that, that Trump is very clear in his sort of statements. In other words, everybody was trying to equivocate that, well, he was going to put a fence instead of all places, et cetera. I think from foreign relations that you have two things. One, I do think most people, whether you're Democrat or Republican, rise up to sort of, what their role as president is. And I think that changes people fundamentally. But second is that I think that with Trump, there'll be a clarity to what he believes, and that clarity is important to foreign leaders. The worst thing you can have is a president that's ambiguous, a president that bends to public power, that commits troops and then pulls them out and leaves the indigenous population, unarmed.
Yeah,
and I think we saw that with George Bush, and not to be criticism of him, but I think we've seen again and again in foreign policy that presidents then turn on when there's lose some public support and leave our allies hanging. I think Trump might be a dependable ally that is very clear with his intentions, that allow world leaders, whether they like him or not, to be able to manage him or manage with him.
But then he takes to Twitter and he says something complete. That's the thing that scares me. I mean, when he's in his strike zone, he did, that was a very good thing. It was a good visual. It was a good, and people want to hear that. But then you take to Twitter and you're fighting with reporters and you're fighting with morons. And
I think that disappears, though. I mean,
when? We've been waiting for 18 months.
That part, the rise up, I'm waiting for that, and we haven't
Right,
seen it.
right.
And
He's
it's just like
uncontrollable.
everything we hear, well, this is like we heard during the election. This is going to hurt him. This is the last thing, and it never is.
Regular people don't read Twitter.
they
Journalists read
don't.
Twitter.
Well, and
Kim
Scott,
Waller,
well,
yeah.
I mean, that was what his persona was, and he didn't want people to like him. He got the people that he needed them, the white people in the rural areas and the different areas, and he might have people might think he's a loose cannon and all those types of things. He's a very smart and bright individual,
People keep saying,
and
"What are
he
you
knows. I'm just saying he knows, and I think he likes that. I think the more the media looks at him and talks about him negatively or whatever, even after now that he's won, he feeds off of that, and he's just going to go do his job.
Kim Waller, isn't it funny? People keep demanding Donald Trump change. The guy that won 306 electoral votes.
Yeah,
When are you
I
gonna
mean,
change?
and all of a sudden
Hillary
the
Clinton
popular
was
vote was
exactly who
maybe,
Anderson Cooper
maybe he
wanted,
wins
yeah.
the popular vote, maybe he doesn't. We ought to change electoral college, but he won.
There ain't no
And-
participation ribbons in the system that George
No.
Washington came up with. Davis, let's talk about where the Democrats go.
Absolutely.
I think it's an interesting movement right now who's going to control the state party in Missouri. You have some folks that say just be socialist, and you have some folks that say, well, the people that have won, I look at Jay Nixon, I don't see a socialist. I think
Absolutely. And nor do I see a socialist state. And that's what we've got to look at, and the Democrats have to look inward. I live in the city. I live in South City. I'm happy to live there. And I look around me and I see diversity. And I think the folks that represent my area have to work with outstate, because those are the people in the leadership positions right now. And
Jane
if-
Duger, I've heard my whole life. We have to target soccer moms. You have to target the Hispanic community. What about the LGBT community? Well, I think what you see now is the RWCHM community, the rural
is?
white Christian heterosexual males. Donald Trump had reached out to them, and it was very successful. I know, like Anderson Cooper, all the big Dan Rather, the big media liberals, they can't stand those awful rural white males. They don't want them to even exist on the same planet with them. But it looks like their votes count too.
Well, and what I hope what this means is this is a good lesson that this identity politics is a losing game. I mean, eventually your group is not in favor. I mean, that's why Romney lost, because there weren't enough of your RWCHMs. Now, you know what I mean? And it's all identity. But
What I
that
always hear is
doesn't,
they
but that's
didn't
not
vote.
policy. That's not, I am concerned that we are targeting too much for certain groups and not figuring out what unites the groups rather than what divides them. As far as the Democratic Party, I agree with you, Dave. We have some soul searching to do. Everyone thought that the Republican Party was going to splinter apart, but it wasn't. It was the Democrats that did this. The Democrats didn't come out. The Democrats elected Donald Trump. That's my belief, my personal belief. And we need to come to terms with how we have a message that expands our pie as opposed to constricting
David Boyle,
it.
let's do a little pro bono if you don't mind. Try to, if you were sitting at the Missouri Democratic Party and the place didn't spontaneously combust, but if you're sitting in that room, how do you reach out to the RWCHM community?
Well, I'm not sure. Well, you certainly don't by taking liberal positions. Here's what I fear: the press is becoming so isolated and so reduced in terms of power. You still have a few good reporters out there, but they're Columbia, they're one or two in St. Louis or here and there. So the press isn't going to be the watchdog that you need. What Republicans need to survive is also what Democrats need to win. And that is that Republicans need to keep their focus on real issues that impact real people. But at the same time, you know, the Democrats, if they go after sort of the normal liberal mantra, there's not enough of those people in Missouri. I mean, they only exist along the Beltway, along the I-70 traffic way. I think the Democrats, if I were them, is that I would look to try to invigorate ourselves as to be a true watchdog. Not to put a lot of chatter out there on things that don't matter, that are personality, that are social issues, things like that, but to truly go and challenge, if there are block grants, for example, that replace Obamacare, which are very likely, that debate is an important debate that the Democrats can frame to make sure that it goes the right direction. Highway transportation funding, education reform. Education and health care are no longer Republican or Democrat issues. I don't even know what a liberal versus a conservative issue is. Obamacare are outgrowths of Republican policy. So my point is they need to focus as watchdogs to go against, look for things Republicans do stupid, but more importantly is to really look at forcing Republicans to manage where they need to manage, and there's a risk to that. I mean, it makes them more popular, but there's a risk of keeping Republicans in honest.
Kim, while I want to close the segment, I saw a Facebook post by Jason Kander, kind of his wrap up on what happened in the elections. He had a line in there that's got attention. We didn't get close to winning by running to the middle, we ran to the left. You're the top elected official in Jefferson County. Does running to the left carry the most swing county in the state?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. In the presidential primary, Bernie Sanders won our county. I was shocked. You know, the far left, socialists,
I didn't admit socialist.
yet the Democrats in that county identified with him more than they did Hillary. I couldn't believe it. I actually had to look at it a couple times. So, you know, I mean, if that's what they stand for and that's where they're at, I think they need to go back to that, because you had Jason Kander and Chris Koster, who I would say are probably two of the better candidates you would have on your party, and they got beat. Now, some people would say they got beat because Trump just carried Missouri so large, and they carried them on the, you know, the opponents of Blunt, and that probably is somewhat true.
Your characteristic of Jeff County as swing county is outdated. One, and then two, that the Bernie Sanders was a anti-protest vote
Can
against.
you get to 82 Democrats in the legislature without the majority of Jeff County being Democrats?
Well, let me just tell you this, is that what we've really seen is there have been three major Republican migrations. In 1994, the South. In the last 10 years, it has been the border states of Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and West Virginia. And now we're seeing, with the collapse of the unions, a third migration in the Midwest, Indiana, Michigan, those states coming back. And I think that this can really be told to Bernie's strength was not a liberalization of the party, it was an anti-Clinton vote. And then second, the collapse of the unions is destroying their backbone of an organizing, of a voter force, and of a financial force in the Democrat Party.
Well, speaking of financial force, we have to take a break right now and go to our sponsors. But first, I want to leave with the 6 leading Missouri economic indicators.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople, while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
St. Louis is a special place. This is home.
And we're more than a community.
We're a family. We value hard work. We sacrifice.
And even in tough times, we don't run. We work together.
Except if you're Stan Kroenke, a Walmart billionaire. He took our Rams to Los Angeles.
We just didn't lose a football team. We lost good jobs.
He hurt our economy, our families. He turned his back on us, our values, our town.
And for what?
So he can make millions more?
Well, we may not have our Rams, but this football Sunday, we can all send Stan and Walmart a message.
Shop local, not Walmart.
Shop Dearborn.
Shop Schnucks. Shop and save.
Stand up for community.
Put our family first, because Kroenke may have taken our team,
But they'll never take away who we are.
At Ameren, Missouri, we're committed to providing cleaner energy for generations to come. Our new state-of-the-art solar energy center is a great example of that commitment. It's part of our long-range plan to deliver more than 30% of our power from cleaner resources. Making sure your energy future is not just brighter, but cleaner too. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the governor-elect, Eric Greitens. Jay Newgert, I have to say, when you look at what he has laid in front of him, if he can handle the revenue shortfall the right way,
It's a big
I think
deal.
he's got the best first year of any governor in recent memory coming up.
Well, and it's hard, and I've been through a number of transitions, and the hard part is, and everybody stumbles in the beginning. You know, you remember, I mean, Matt Blunt had some struggles. Bob Holden had struggles.
It's a big
Matt
job.
Blunt, it is. Even Jay Nixon. I mean, they all have struggles. So it's not that you have them, it's how you handle them. And to me, if it were me, I mean, the budget, they need to get a handle on that. They've got probably $200-300 million shortfall this year. Depending on what happens with those tax cuts, it could get up to $600 million. Then you're looking at some real problems because there's only certain pots of money that have that amount of money. It's higher ed, it's K through 12, it's prisons, and it's Medicaid. So if you're going to make cuts, you better be very strategic because it's the cuts that kill you. I mean, you look at every single problem governor, it's been the cuts.
No, if you're not
and
the
get
conservative.
a hand on the budget.
I think Eric Greitens is set up to have a very good year. David Sweeney, you
can.
disagree?
You know, I mean, he's a fellow city resident. I mean, I can't.
There
How
you
can I
go.
not be excited about that? You know, fellow Jew. So I mean, I can't believe I'm not ecstatic about both of those things. But he is set up. Absolutely, he's going to come in and get some legislation through that the governor's been vetoing, and it's pretty clear it's going to get out
And he's
there.
got a Republican legislature.
Yeah,
I
Kim
mean,
Waller, I personally am critical of Eric Greitens at times, but I look at it, I think he's got a chance to do well. I mean, what if the federal government reshuffles Obamacare? That could plug some budget holes. I think there's a bunch of different ways where he's set up to have a great first year.
Well, and you know, he's came from the bottom to the top. I mean, I don't think anybody gave him a chance in the primary, at least down in the areas where I live. You know, a lot of people liked him, but you know, where's he at on the list of the 4 people who were running? He didn't have the name recognition. He wins the primary fairly easily. Then he goes against, like I said, a very popular guy in Chris Koster, an attorney general, and he beats him. So, you know, if he can go into that first year, it's kind of like icing on the cake, you know, and I think he's going to have a good chance. You know, Jane, you know, the budget is an issue, but, you know, when you're talking $600 million, that sounds like a lot of money, but in the big scope of things, you know, I think that's something that can be manageable. And he's got a Republican legislature, and a Republican, you know, on the House and the Senate side, so the things he wants to do, he should be able to get done.
David Barkley, when is cutting government bad? That sounds like a great idea.
Well, I mean, I think it's not really about cutting anymore. It's got to be about managing. And the real mark of a guy who wants to be president of the United States is his ability to manage, not cut. Anybody can cut with a 2/3 majority plus of a Republican legislature in both bodies. It's going to come down to what we would expect is block grants coming to replace Obamacare, how those are managed and how those resources are done, how you fix transportation, how you really fundamentally improve education. We all know the foundation formula is really about salaries, and it's a lot going towards salaries. So how do you really increase the overall funding, how do you fix the rules or the city schools without pissing off the rural schools, find those balances? Those are the tricks that are going to prove whether or not this guy is gubernatorial material or presidential material or both.
Let's talk about a quote. Speaking of a place you might have some budget money, the University of Missouri system. The chairwoman of the curators came out and said, well, they don't want us hiring people, from Northwest Arkansas to come in and run our university. So you got to be competitive. The new budget chairman, Scott Fitzpatrick, one of the most impressive legislators, I think he lives about 5 miles from Northwest Arkansas. I personally have a farm that you could see Arkansas from. I don't know what's wrong with Arkansas.
Well, I mean, the thing is look, there were big salaries paid at the University of Missouri for years.
She's struggling on this one.
No, I don't agree with it. I mean, this is the deal. When you are doing a good job, people don't care that you pay people well. What people are upset about is they will say it's high salaries, but what they're upset about is the university.
That's a high salary.
I agree, but the university needs to prove that it's doing its job, and they have a fundamental problem, and it needs to get fixed. And the new governor has a chance to appoint some curators and to change the direction. But people do not believe that the university is doing what it needs to be doing. And so they're going to criticize everything. And until.
A lot going right at Missouri State.
Right. Well, I mean, we have a lot of good schools. But the problem is, this is our flagship university, and we should be doing better.
Is Alita's comments like that? Is she interviewing for a job on CNN?
I'm from Iowa, so I take offense, the neighbor to the north. And I went to school up in Kirksville. So, I mean, all the focus, as Jane said, is on Mizzou and the curators. So they got to know that, and they've got to operate efficiently. And comments like that just aren't well thought out. And let me finish real quick. And that's a university institution that the whole state, everybody connects with the state. They don't think about Missouri State. They don't think of my alma mater, Truman State. When they say Missouri, they're going to think of Mizzou. They're the one with the football team, the basketball team. And we've got to do a better job of that.
I mean, it looks to me like I've seen this happen. It looks to me like it's a professor-driven thing. If you want to know what the eggheads would actually do with something if they ran it, look at the University of Missouri. Yes. I know one professor around Jeff City. As long as he's there, you never convince me they haven't had money problems. Quotes like this, good Lord.
Look, if I had more time to prepare, I would remind this person that Northwest Arkansas is the home for University of Arkansas. And if you want to compare University of Arkansas, University of Missouri, I don't think you want to do that right now. I don't think you want to look at the economic engine. I don't even think you want to look at what the jobs pay there versus a major part of Missouri outside of St. Louis and Kansas City. So uninformed, this goes typically to the problem that we've had. That Jane, I agree with Jane up and down the line there, that it's not the salaries, it is the results.
Won't care till you cut them.
And I agree. The place is being run by professors. Professors don't like any interference, don't like to be told anything. They want to run it their own state, and as a result, it has collapsed the university system, put at risk the athletic programs, funding from donors. And our standing in the community nationally. I think we've got a long road to haul, and statements like this just set us back farther. And remember, it's a limited pool that every other university lobbyist is going to be going out there and saying more for Southeast Missouri, more for Missouri State and everywhere else. And it's a compelling argument.
They won't care until you do it, though, right?
Yeah.
The legislature will have to step up and do it, or they won't ever care.
Yeah.
I remember Kim Waller. There was an old boy from Northwest Arkansas, Sam Walton. He did pretty good.
He did all right
in
for
fact,
himself.
if I recall right, it was his kinfolk that took his money and paid for the basketball arena.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess Northwest Arkansas people's money spent in Columbia.
I agree. And you go back to the Greitens thing when you talk about the trustees. Here's somebody that can put a mark on that university. And it's like any board, we have that in our county. We put boards and commissions, put people in positions. So, you can put your label and you can figure out what you want to do. And you can put those people on there to get that in the direction it needs to be going. And that's huge for that university, because that university, I wouldn't say it's spiraling downward, but it's sure the enrollment's down. The basketball team's not very good. The football team was horrible this year, and that's where a lot of your publicity comes and a lot of your money's for a lot of things. And they need to really ramp it up. And Greitens can, if he gets those trustees, he gets some good trustees in there. I think it'll be beneficial to that university and to the state, just the educational system in the state as a whole.
Jay Drucker, let's talk about now that the 2016 election's over. Let's talk about the 2018 elections.
Well, as if we're not exhausted. So yes, they are coming.
Well, it looks like with Donald Trump winning, it might make that office more appealing for Senator McCaskill to run for re-election to the U.S. Senate.
I think in a warped way, I think, because no matter what, no matter how good they are, there's always some, beginning administration stumbles, and midterm correction is always there.
History shows that.
History does show that. So I think, for Auditor Galloway, for Senator McCaskill, I think that this could be an opportunity, depending on how this plays, that this could be an opportunity for them to fare better. And so, but as we talked about before, Democrats have to get their message together. I think Senator McCaskill is a centrist. I think she's not going to be doing sort of the far left stuff that is, I think, would make
Are
it.
you voted for Obamacare?
Yeah, I think you can be. Yeah.
David Sweeney, do you think she runs now?
Oh, absolutely. I hope she does. I think she's a strong candidate. I think she's done some amazing things up in D.C. She's getting hearings. She's making noise. And,
What can she do to reach out to the RWCHM community?
She grew up in it. She's from it. She's lived it. She worked her way up through. She's not some person that just came out and got everything handed to her. And she's been in the state for many, many years. She's worked her way up. So I don't.
A tremendous politician.
Yeah,
She
and
is.
a tremendous
don't
person.
underestimate that.
David Barkley, it's the Republicans. Who runs?
Well, you got a whole list. You've got, I don't think you'd count out John Brunner. You've got Todd Richardson, Speaker of the House, who could look at this. It depends on how his first 100 days are, I think, would define it. John Lamping has been rumored. Ann Wagner, of course, is...
That's the name we've heard the most.
That's the name we've heard the most. Blaine Luetkemeyer could look at it, but I think Blaine has some real opportunities to bring some real power from Missouri in terms of banking. You've got Josh Hawley, who hasn't ruled it out, who was on Reardon. I think it didn't rule it out, even though he had the commercial about the ladder, about always running for office, and he hasn't even served today. You've got Jay Ashcroft, the same thing, who I think would love the idea of following his father in the Senate. You've got Vicky Hartzler, and then you've got David Wassinger, who took on the giant banks and beat them.
You've got
smaller
the new state treasurer, Eric Schmidt. Kim Waller, what do you think?
Well, David just gave me a list. That's just, I'm seeing write all these names down. I'm like, he can write and print. I could actually read what he wrote down there.
He actually used that paper for the first time.
I think it's going to be like another governor's race. It's going to be a free-for-all. And when you parlay that down to where our county is, you're talking about Jefferson County, 250,000 people living there. We've got like 20 positions going to be running. So it's important who runs for that Senate seat.
Ann Wagner.
Absolutely.
I think she's the person that's been talked about. There was some bumbling of the Trump endorsement. I think she comes past that, and I think she's a pretty viable candidate. What do you think?
Well, and you said it earlier off the grid here. You just said it's about who's got the money and who can get the money raised and where the money comes from. And Bruner's got money, and he's always a viable candidate. I don't know. I think she's probably maybe the front runner, but
and you can't
you've
just
got
call up a donor and get $1 million run for federal office.
You outed me on Schmidt. The reason I didn't include Schmidt at the top of my list is because he would have to be. They would have to lobby him hard because he's very dedicated and want to be treasurer. So he'd be a top
he's
candidate.
Got a family. Give me a prediction right
and
now.
I hope Eric heard that.
Senate nominee, I think right now is probably Ann Wagner.
What do you think the Senate nominee is?
No idea. I think it's too early.
Who do you think? Who do you want to see?
Who do I want to see?
Last time I asked you who you wanted to see, you said Donald Trump. So
well, but before that it was Todd Aiken, so we were right about
there
that.
You go.
So and I think Claire will, she has done pretty well at sort of even influencing the other side.
Who do you think?
I just want him to spend a lot of money.
Right. We'll get David Barkley some more pro bono work for the Democrats next time on This Week in Missouri Politics. This Week in Missouri Politics, brought to you by Spire and Sterling Bank.